Imagine a species so adaptable that they turn their homeworld's attempt to kill them into their greatest strength. Picture beings who faced extinction countless times, yet emerged from each trial more resilient, more cunning, more unified than before. Now imagine the moment when the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, in their infinite wisdom and superiority, decided these creatures were too dangerous to control, so they simply let them leave. The Galactic Council thought they were showing mercy. They believed isolation would contain the threat. They assumed distance would diminish the danger. They had never been more catastrophically wrong. What follows is the story of how humanity's exile became the galaxy's countdown to its own obsolescence. This is the tale of how the Council's greatest act of diplomatic restraint became their species' death sentence. And it all began with a single word that echoed through the halls of the most powerful governing body in known space: leave. The massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension as Ambassador Chen stood before the assembled representatives of 47 star systems. Her simple black suit seemed almost primitive compared to the flowing energy garments of the Zephyrian delegates or the biomechanical exoskeletons worn by the Mechani collective. Yet there was something in her posture, something in the way she held herself perfectly still while chaos erupted around her, that commanded attention. "Order! Order!" High Chancellor Vex High's voice boomed through the translocation matrix, his 6 arms gesturing frantically as his people's traditional blue skin had shifted to an angry purple. The Altarian leader had called this emergency session after receiving reports that sent shockwaves through every major civilization in the galaxy. Chen watched the assembled aliens with the patience of someone who had spent decades learning to navigate their complex political landscape. 3 years ago, when humanity had first been granted provisional membership in the Council, she had been amazed by the diversity of life that had achieved spaceflight. Now, she understood that diversity did not necessarily equal wisdom. "The reports are confirmed," announced Praetor Kixalon, the insectoid representative from the Hive Worlds. His mandibles clicked nervously as he consulted the bioluminescent display growing from his forearm. Human colonies have been detected in the Kepler expanse, the Vega territories, and the outer rim of the Andromeda approaches. This expansion violates 17 separate galactic accords. A collective murmur rippled through the chamber. The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering field, pulsed with what Chen had learned to recognize as concern. The rapid colonization rate exceeds all established parameters for newly spacefaring species. In merely 3 years, they have established more permanent settlements than most civilizations manage in 3 centuries. Chen remained silent, though she felt a familiar pride swelling in her chest. They had no idea what humanity was truly capable of. High Chancellor Vex Hay's attention turned to her with the weight of a star going supernova. "Ambassador Chen, these accusations are grave. Your species was admitted to this council with the understanding that you would abide by our expansion protocols. The established limits exist to prevent conflicts between emerging and elder civilizations." "Honored Chancellor," Chen replied, her voice carrying easily through the chamber without any technological enhancement. "Humanity has not violated any accords. We have established settlements only in unclaimed systems, far from any existing territorial boundaries. Our colonization efforts have been entirely peaceful and have interfered with no other species." The Draconic Alliance representative, Supreme Scale Thane Zirith, leaned forward on his massive perch. His species had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years, and his ancient eyes held the weight of eons. "Peaceful or not, the rate of expansion is unprecedented and concerning. No species achieves such rapid dispersal without significant technological capabilities that were not disclosed during your admission process." Chen felt the temperature in the room drop several degrees as dozens of alien gazes fixed upon her. This was the moment she had been preparing for since accepting this assignment. Earth's brightest minds had anticipated this conversation, wargamed every possible response, and prepared her for what was becoming increasingly inevitable. "If I may," she said, stepping forward slightly, "I believe the concern is not truly about territorial expansion or undisclosed technology. The concern is about humanity's potential." The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background hum of the Council's massive processing system seemed to quiet. Praetor Kixalon's mandibles stopped their nervous clicking. "Elaborate." Chen walked slowly toward the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. Each step was calculated, each movement designed to project confidence without aggression. Every species represented in this council achieved spaceflight through different methods. The Zephyrians mastered energy manipulation. The Mechani collective transcended biological limitations through technological integration. The hive worlds achieved perfect biological coordination. The Draconic Alliance gained wisdom through longevity. She paused, turning to address each delegation in turn. But humanity achieved spaceflight through something none of you possess: absolute necessity. We did not develop faster than light travel because we were curious about the stars. We developed it because our homeworld was dying and we refused to die with it. High Chancellor Vexhay's skin had shifted from purple to an ominous dark red. What are you implying? I am stating a fact that should have been obvious from the moment we appeared in your space, Chen replied, her voice never wavering. Humanity does not expand out of ambition or curiosity. We expand because expansion equals survival, and survival is not optional for us. While your species had millennia to gradually develop space technology, we had decades. While you explored space at your leisure, we colonized it out of desperation. The ethereal collective's energy form flickered rapidly, a sign of intense thought processing. You suggest your species is driven by existential necessity? Chen nodded. Earth taught us that safety is an illusion, that comfort is temporary, and that any species that stops moving stops existing. We learned these lessons while dodging asteroids, surviving ice ages, and watching our magnetic field fluctuate. By the time we reached space, we had already survived more extinction-level events than most civilizations face in their entire existence. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages while translation matrices struggled to keep pace. Chen stood calmly in the center of the storm, watching the panic spread through the galaxy's supposed leaders like a viral infection. Supreme Scale Thane Zereth's massive voice cut through the noise. Silence! His ancient authority commanded instant obedience. When quiet returned, his enormous eyes fixed on Chen with something that might have been respect. Human ambassador, you speak of your species as if it were a weapon. Chen considered this carefully before responding. With respect, Supreme Thane, that analogy is flawed. A weapon is created to destroy. Humanity was forged to survive. The fact that these two concepts sometimes appear identical to outside observers is not our responsibility. The implications of her words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Chen could see the realization dawning on face after face, in expression after expression, adapted to alien biology, but somehow universally readable in their growing alarm. The rapid colonization. High Chancellor Vexhay said slowly. It is not an expansion program. It is a survival strategy. Every human settlement is a backup plan, Chen confirmed. Every colony is an insurance policy against extinction. We do not build cities on distant worlds because we want them. We build them because we need them, and we need them because we understand something that apparently no other species in this council has truly grasped. The universe is actively hostile to life, and the only response to that hostility is to become too widespread to eliminate. Praetor Kixlon's bioluminescent display was flashing rapidly as he processed data feeds from across the galaxy. Our intelligence estimates suggest human colonies are appearing at a rate of 1 new settlement every 18 standard days. If this rate continues, we will be present in every habitable system within a century. Chen finished for him. Yes, that is exactly the plan. The silence that followed was profound. Chen could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of billions of human lives depending on how the next few minutes unfolded. Behind her calm exterior, she was calculating escape routes, analyzing delegate positions, and preparing for the worst possible outcome. Finally, High Chancellor Vexhay spoke. The Council cannot permit this level of expansion. It destabilizes the established galactic order. It threatens the territorial integrity of every member civilization. Chen had been expecting this. And what solution does the Council propose? Immediate cessation of all colonial activities, the High Chancellor announced. Withdrawal from all settlements established beyond your home system. Acceptance of permanent restrictions on human expansion beyond a designated containment zone. Containment, Chen repeated, her voice carrying a dangerous edge that several delegates immediately recognized as a warning. You want to contain humanity. For the safety of all galactic civilizations, confirmed Praetor Kixelon. Your own words demonstrate that human expansion represents an existential threat to the established order. Chen felt something cold and hard crystallize in her chest. This was it. This was the moment that would determine whether humanity's future lay in subjugation or in something far more interesting. And if humanity refuses these restrictions? She asked. The chamber held its breath. Then humanity will be expelled from the Council and barred from all member territories, High Chancellor Vexhay declared. You will be free to expand as you wish, but only beyond the boundaries of civilized space. Chen allowed herself a small smile. It was not a pleasant expression, and several delegates shifted uncomfortably as they witnessed it. "Before I respond to your generous offer," she said, "I would like to share something about human history that might inform your decision." 500 years ago, a small group of humans became frustrated with the restrictions placed upon them by their governing authorities. These authorities were convinced they were acting in everyone's best interests. They believed that containing these troublesome humans would solve their problems. She paused, letting the silence stretch. Those authorities watched from their comfortable positions of power as ships carried their former subjects across dangerous oceans to unknown lands. They congratulated themselves on removing a destabilizing element from their society. They celebrated their wisdom and foresight. Chen began walking slowly around the chamber's perimeter, her voice carrying to every corner. Within 2 centuries, those exiled humans had built the most powerful nation their homeworld had ever seen. They had developed technologies their former rulers could barely comprehend. They had created economic and military systems that made their place of origin look like a historical curiosity. And when those humans finally returned to visit their ancestral homeland, they came not as subjects, but as superiors. She stopped directly in front of High Chancellor HFY's position. "So when you offer humanity exile beyond the boundaries of what you call civilized space, you should understand that we do not see this as punishment. We see it as opportunity. We see it as freedom from restrictions we never wanted to follow anyway. Most importantly, we see it as your abdication of any authority over what we become next." The implication hung in the air like an undetonated bomb. Supreme Scale Thane Zereth's ancient voice carried a note of something that might have been respect or might have been fear. "You would accept exile?" Chen turned to address the entire assembly. "The Council has made its position clear. Humanity must choose between containment and exile. As the official representative of my species, I choose exile. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all Council territories, renounces all Council protections, and rejects all Council authority." The reaction was instantaneous chaos. Delegates shouted, emergency alarms sounded, and security forces began moving toward defensive positions. Through it all, Chen stood perfectly still, watching the panic with the detached interest of a scientist observing a particularly fascinating experiment. High Chancellor HFY's skin had shifted to a color she had never seen before, something between black and deep violet. "You cannot simply walk away from the galactic community." "Watch us," Chen replied. And with that she turned and walked toward the chamber's exit, her footsteps echoing in the vast space as the assembled representatives of galactic civilization screamed behind her. She did not look back, she did not hurry. She simply walked away from everything the galaxy thought it knew about power, authority, and control. As the massive doors sealed behind her, Ambassador Chen Wei smiled for the first time in years. The Council thought they had solved their human problem. They had no idea what kind of problem they had just created. 5 years had passed since humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council, and High Chancellor HFY found himself staring at reports that made his stomach twist into knots his species' anatomy should not have permitted. The massive holographic display in his private chambers showed a 3-dimensional map of known space, with human settlements marked in ominous red dots that seemed to multiply every time he updated the data. "Computer, show me the expansion pattern analysis," he commanded. The display shifted, drawing connecting lines between human colonies and projecting probable future settlement locations based on observed patterns. What emerged was not the scattered, desperate diaspora the Council had expected. Instead, the hologram revealed something that made HFY's 6 hands tremble. A perfectly orchestrated expansion strategy that demonstrated planning capabilities far beyond what any Council species had attributed to the humans. "Sir?" His aide, a young Altarian named Kepler, entered the chamber carrying a data tablet that glowed with urgent priority markers. "The latest reports from our border monitoring stations have arrived." HFY accepted the tablet with reluctance. Each report seemed to bring worse news than the last. He scanned the contents, his skin shifting through several color phases as he processed the information. "They have established 17 new colonies this month alone," he murmured. "That is impossible. The logistics required to support such rapid expansion should be overwhelming for any civilization, especially one operating without Council infrastructure support." Kexfor's own skin had adopted a nervous yellow tinge. "Sir, that is not the most concerning development. Our long-range scouts have detected something unprecedented." HFY looked up from the tablet. "Elaborate." "Human settlements are not merely expanding outward from their original territories. They appear to be establishing colonies in patterns that create overlapping defensive networks. Each cluster of settlements is positioned to provide mutual support and protection, More troubling, they seem to be specifically targeting systems with strategic resources that were previously considered too dangerous or difficult to exploit. The High Chancellor set down the tablet and walked to his massive observation window. Beyond the transparent aluminum barrier, the Council's home system sparkled with the lights of countless spacecraft and orbital installations. This had been the center of galactic civilization for over 3 millennia. It represented order, stability, and the wisdom of cooperative governance. Looking at it now, Vexai wondered if he was watching the sunset of an entire era. "Show me the Kepler expanse situation," he commanded. The room's display system activated, projecting a detailed view of the region that had become humanity's primary expansion zone. What Vexai saw made his blood run cold. The humans had not simply established random colonies throughout the expanse, they had created what could only be described as a, quote, fortress, end quote, network. Each settlement was positioned to control key hyperspace routes, resource-rich systems, and strategic defensive positions. More concerning still, intelligence reports suggested these colonies were not independent settlements, but interconnected nodes in a vast logistical and communication network. "They are not just expanding," he whispered, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. "They are conquering." Kexvor nodded grimly. "Our xenological specialists have spent months analyzing human expansion patterns. Their conclusion is unanimous. Humanity is not behaving like a species seeking new homes. They are behaving like a military force securing territory for future operations." A soft chime announced an incoming priority communication. Vexai activated the holographic projector, and the image of supreme-scale Thane Zereth materialized in the center of the chamber. The ancient dragon's expression was grave in a way that sent ice through Vexai's veins. "High Chancellor," Zereth rumbled, "we need to convene an emergency council session immediately." "What has happened?" 3 hours ago, a human fleet appeared in the Proxima Junction system. They were not hostile, but they made their intentions perfectly clear. They are claiming the entire system under what they call the Human Colonial Authority. Vexai felt his skin shift to the deep black of profound shock. Proxima Junction is a neutral system. It serves as a trading hub for 17 different species. They cannot simply claim it. "They already have," Zereth replied, "and their legal justification is unassailable under galactic law. The system was never formally claimed by any council member, and humanity is no longer bound by council expansion restrictions. According to every treaty we have ever signed, their claim is legitimate." The implications crashed over Vexai like a tsunami. Proxima Junction was more than just a trading hub. It was a critical logistics node that connected dozens of council territories. Human control of the system would give them leverage over interstellar commerce that could cripple entire civilizations. "How many ships?" he asked. 47 vessels, Zereth answered. "But these were not the primitive spacecraft we observed 5 years ago. Our military analysts are calling them technological impossibilities. They appear to have achieved advances in propulsion, shielding, and weapon systems that should have taken centuries to develop." Kexvor was frantically updating data feeds on his tablet. "Sir, we are receiving similar reports from across the galactic perimeter. Human fleets have appeared simultaneously in 12 strategic systems, all unclaimed, all legally defensible, and all positioned to provide them with tremendous influence over council trade routes and resource distribution." Vexai collapsed into his meditation chair, a piece of furniture designed to provide comfort during the most stressful situations. It was failing spectacularly in its intended purpose. "They planned this," he said, the words coming out like an admission of personal failure. "From the moment Ambassador Chen walked out of that chamber, they were planning this exact scenario." Zereth's image nodded grimly. "Our intelligence services have been working around the clock to understand human strategic thinking. Their preliminary assessment is terrifying in its implications." Explain. "Humanity does not think in terms of individual conflicts or isolated objectives. They think in terms of total strategic advantage across multiple generations. When they accepted exile from council space, they were not reacting to our restrictions. They were implementing a long-term strategy that required our restrictions to be removed." The realization was like being struck by lightning. Vexai rose from his chair and began pacing, his multiple arms gesticulating as his mind raced through the implications. "They wanted us to exile them," he said. "They manipulated the entire council into giving them exactly what they needed: freedom from our oversight and legal justification for unlimited expansion." "Worse than that," Zereth continued. "Our analysts believe humanity has been preparing for this scenario since before they joined the council. Their rapid colonization was not desperate expansion. It was the implementation of a predetermined strategic plan, Kexfor looked up from his tablet, his skin now a pale white of absolute terror. Sir, I am receiving reports of human activity in the Veil Nebula. Our long-range sensors are detecting massive industrial operations in systems we believed were uninhabitable. Impossible, Vexhai said automatically. The radiation levels in those systems would kill most known life forms within hours. Human biology appears to be more adaptable than we previously understood, Zareth explained. Our xenological reports indicate they possess resistance to radiation levels that would be lethal to most council species. They are not merely surviving in those systems. They are thriving. The holographic display updated to show the newest intelligence. What appeared was a revelation that shook Vexhai to his core. Hidden within the Veil Nebula, completely undetected by council sensors, humanity had constructed industrial complexes that dwarfed anything in known space. The energy signatures alone suggested manufacturing capabilities that exceeded the combined output of the 10 largest council worlds. How long? Vexhai whispered. How long have they been building this? Our best estimates suggest they began construction within months of their exile, Zareth replied. Possibly even before the council session where we expelled them. The chamber fell silent as the three beings contemplated the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Humanity had not stumbled into galactic power. They had methodically, systematically, and patiently constructed it, while the council congratulated itself on solving the human problem. What are they building in those facilities? Vexhai asked, though he dreaded the answer. Kexvor consulted his tablet with trembling hands. Unknown. The industrial signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Whatever they are producing, it requires energy outputs and manufacturing processes that our most advanced civilizations cannot achieve. A new communication alert chimed through the chamber. The message header made Vexhai's skin shift to colors that had no name. Priority communication from the Human Colonial Authority, he read aloud. They are requesting a diplomatic meeting. Requesting? Zareth's voice carried a note of dark humor. How generous of them. Vexhai opened the message, and Ambassador Chen's familiar face appeared on the holographic display. She looked exactly the same as she had 5 years ago, but there was something different about her demeanor, where once she had projected determination tempered by diplomatic necessity, now she radiated confidence backed by unassailable power. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Chen began, her voice carrying the same calm authority it had possessed during her last appearance in their chambers. The Human Colonial Authority extends greetings to our former colleagues and invites you to attend a diplomatic conference aboard the neutral station at Kepler Prime. She paused, and her smile was not entirely pleasant. We have several matters of mutual interest to discuss, including trade agreements, territorial boundaries, and the establishment of formal diplomatic relations between our respective governments. We look forward to renewing our relationship under these new and improved circumstances. The message ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Neutral station? Kexfor whispered. Kepler Prime is in human-controlled space. How is that neutral? Because they say it is, Zareth rumbled. And they now have the power to make such declarations meaningful. Vexhai stared at the coordinates included in Chen's message. Kepler Prime was deep in the heart of human territory, surrounded by their industrial complexes and protected by their mysterious fleets. Any council delegation attending such a meeting would be completely at humanity's mercy. They are not requesting a diplomatic conference, he realized. They are demanding our surrender. No, Zareth corrected grimly. They are offering us the opportunity to negotiate the terms of our own submission. There is a difference, though perhaps not a significant one. Vexhai looked once more at the display showing human expansion across the galaxy. Red dots marked their presence in hundreds of systems, connected by lines that revealed a network of staggering complexity and efficiency. In 5 short years, humanity had transformed from an annoyance to be managed into an existential threat to the established order. Convene an emergency session, he commanded. Every council member needs to understand what we are facing. As Kexvor hurried to transmit the necessary orders, Vexhai found himself remembering Ambassador Chen's final words before she left the council chambers 5 years ago. Watch us. They had watched. And what they had seen was the emergence of a force that would reshape the galaxy forever. The council had thought they were expelling a troublesome species. Instead, they had unleashed something that would make them question everything they believed about power, civilization, and survival. And the worst part was that humanity had made it look effortless. The diplomatic vessel carrying the Galactic Council delegation approached Kepler Prime through space that no longer belonged to any civilization they recognized. Commander Thrix of the Mechany Collective stood at the observation deck's primary viewport, his cybernetic implants processing data streams that painted an increasingly disturbing picture of human capabilities. Energy readings are off the charts, reported his technical analysis suite, the artificial voice emerging directly into his consciousness through neural interface. The station ahead is generating power levels equivalent to a small star. Beside him, High Chancellor Vexhay struggled to maintain his diplomatic composure as his skin cycled through colors that betrayed his emotional state. Impossible. No known technology can achieve such energy concentration without massive infrastructure. We should be seeing industrial complexes, mining operations, support fleets. Perhaps we are, suggested Dr. Lyra of the Ethereal Collective, her energy form flickering with patterns of deep contemplation. Perhaps human technology has advanced beyond our ability to recognize it. Supreme Scale Thane Zirith, despite his millennia of experience, felt something he had not experienced in over 1,000 years. Genuine uncertainty about the future. The question is not what technology they possess, but what they intend to do with it. As their ship drew closer, Kepler Prime resolved from a distant point of light into a structure that challenged every assumption the delegates had ever made about space-based construction. The station was not the crude, utilitarian design typical of newly spacefaring species. Instead, it was an elegant fusion of organic curves and geometric precision that suggested engineering principles completely unknown to Council science. "It is beautiful, Dr. Brechar," Lyra observed, her energy patterns shifting to express aesthetic appreciation mixed with professional concern, and absolutely terrifying. The station's docking procedures were flawlessly executed by automated systems that guided the Council vessel to its berth with precision that spoke of technology far more advanced than anything in their experience. As the delegation prepared to disembark, each member privately wondered if they were walking into a trap or a negotiation. Ambassador Chen was waiting for them in the docking bay, but she was not alone. Flanking her were two individuals whose presence immediately caught the attention of every delegate. To her right stood a woman whose augmented biology was visible through translucent skin that revealed circulatory and nervous systems operating at efficiency levels that should have been impossible. To her left was a man whose genetic modifications were so extensive that he barely qualified as baseline human. "Honored delegates," Chen said, her voice carrying easily through the bay's atmosphere without any visible amplification technology. "Welcome to Kepler Prime. Allow me to introduce my colleagues. Dr. Sarah Chen Martinez, our Director of Biological Adaptation, and Commander Alex Petrov, our Military Strategic Coordinator." High Chancellor Vexhay tried to process what he was seeing. Biological adaptation? Military strategic coordination? These were not positions that existed in human government 5 years ago. Chen smiled with the patience of someone explaining something obvious to children. "Many things have changed since our departure from Council space. We have found it necessary to develop new governmental structures to address new realities. Doctor?" Chen Martinez stepped forward, her movements flowing with inhuman grace. "If you will permit me, I would like to explain some of the changes we have undergone. As you may have noticed, humanity has modified itself to better survive in the environments we have chosen to inhabit. Commander Thrix's cybernetic systems were frantically analyzing the woman before him. Your biological modifications exceed anything in our databases. The energy efficiency of your nervous system alone suggests processing capabilities that rival our most advanced artificial intelligences." "Thank you," Dr. Chen Martinez replied. "That was exactly what we were attempting to achieve." The implications hit the delegation like a physical blow. Supreme Scale Thane Zirith, drawing on millennia of diplomatic experience, found his voice first. "You have enhanced your species beyond baseline human parameters." "Extensively," Commander Petrov confirmed. His voice carried harmonics that suggested vocal cord modifications designed for communication across multiple frequency ranges. "When the Council expelled humanity, we were forced to confront some uncomfortable truths about our limitations. We chose to eliminate those limitations rather than accept them." Chen gestured toward a transport platform that materialized from the base floor with technology so advanced it appeared to be pure magic. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion in a more comfortable environment. I believe you will find our conference facilities quite adequate." The transport carried them through corridors lined with displays showing real-time data from across human space. The delegates watched in growing amazement and horror, as streams of information revealed the true scope of human expansion. Star maps showed colonies and systems they had believed uninhabitable. Resource extraction operations processed materials in quantities that should have taken centuries to accumulate. Industrial complexes manufactured products whose purposes were completely beyond council understanding. How many worlds? Doctor, Lyra asked, her energy form pulsing with the effort of processing so much new information. Currently, we maintain active settlements on 437 worlds, Chen replied casually, with another 215 colonies in various stages of establishment. The transport entered a massive chamber whose dimensions seemed to violate basic architectural principles. The ceiling appeared to stretch into infinity, while the walls curved in ways that suggested space-folding technology far beyond anything the Council had ever achieved. Please be seated. Chen indicated a conference area that materialized from the chamber's floor as they approached. The furniture adjusted automatically to accommodate each delegate's unique physiology with precision that demonstrated intimate knowledge of their biology. High Chancellor Vexai settled into his chair and found it more comfortable than anything in his personal quarters. How do you know our physical requirements so precisely? We have been studying Council species for quite some time, Commander Petrov explained. Understanding your capabilities and limitations seemed prudent given the circumstances of our departure. Dr. Chen Martinez activated a holographic display that filled the chamber's center with a three-dimensional representation of local galactic space. Perhaps it would be helpful if we provided some context for the current situation. The display zoomed out to show the full scope of human expansion. What the delegates saw was not the scattered colonization they had imagined, but a carefully orchestrated occupation of strategic positions throughout the galaxy. Human settlements formed interconnected networks that controlled key trade routes, resource clusters, and defensive positions. We have not been randomly settling available worlds, Chen explained. We have been implementing a comprehensive strategy for galactic security and stability. Galactic security? Commander Thrax's mechanical voice carried notes of disbelief.
You are describing galactic domination. Perspective, Commander Petrov replied.
From our viewpoint, we are establishing the infrastructure necessary to ensure long-term stability and prosperity for all galactic civilizations. From your viewpoint, we are threatening the established order. Supreme Scale Thane Zerith leaned forward, his ancient mind struggling to process the scale of what he was witnessing. What do you want from the Council? Chen's expression became completely serious for the first time since their arrival. We want recognition of the new reality. The galactic order that existed when you expelled humanity no longer exists. A new order has taken its place, and we are offering the Council the opportunity to find its place within that order. And if we refuse? Doctor? Lyra's energy form had adopted patterns that suggested deep alarm. Dr. Chen Martinez gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show economic projections. The Council's economy depends on trade routes and resource flows that are now under human control. Refusal to acknowledge the new reality would result in economic collapse for most member civilizations within 18 months. The room fell silent as the delegates contemplated the magnitude of what they were being told. In 5 years, humanity had maneuvered itself into a position where they could economically strangle the entire galactic community without firing a single shot. This is blackmail, High Chancellor Vexay said quietly. This is reality, Chen corrected. When the Council chose to expel humanity, you created a situation where we were forced to ensure our own survival through our own methods. We have done so. Now we are offering you the opportunity to participate in the future we have created. Commander Petrov activated additional displays showing technological capabilities that made the delegates question everything they thought they knew about the limits of scientific achievement. Faster-than-light communication networks that spanned the galaxy instantly. Manufacturing techniques that could produce entire starships in hours rather than years. Biological modifications that allowed humans to survive in environments that would kill any other known species. How? Commander Thrix asked, his artificial components struggling to process data that exceeded his programming parameters. How did you achieve so much in such a short time? Necessity, Dr. Chen Martinez answered. When survival is not optional, limitations become suggestions rather than absolutes. We eliminated everything that was not essential for our survival and enhanced everything that was. Chen stood and walked to the chamber's primary viewport, which offered a view of space filled with human vessels moving in perfect coordination. The Council made a fundamental error in its assessment of humanity. You believed we were like yourselves, comfortable with gradual progress, satisfied with incremental improvement, content to work within established systems. She turned back to the delegates, and her expression carried the weight of 5 years of transformation that had reshaped not just human civilization, but humanity itself. We are not like you. We never were. Exile from Council space did not weaken us. It freed us to become what we were, always capable of being. And what we are capable of being is something that no other species in this galaxy can match, control, or contain. The silence that followed was broken only by the subtle harmonics of the station's vast power systems. Each delegate was struggling to accept a reality that had shifted so fundamentally that their previous understanding of galactic civilization had become obsolete. Finally, Supreme Scale Thane Zereth spoke. "What are your terms?" Chen smiled, and for the first time, it was not entirely pleasant. "We will discuss terms tomorrow. Tonight, we invite you to tour some of our facilities. We believe you will find them educational." As the delegates were escorted to luxurious quarters that demonstrated technology decades ahead of their own capabilities, each wondered the same thing. Had they come to negotiate with humanity, or had humanity summoned them to witness their own obsolescence? The answer would become clear soon enough. The tour of human facilities began at dawn. Though the concept of dawn on Kepler Prime was artificial, since the station maintained its own temporal environment independent of any planetary cycle. High Chancellor Vexahay had spent a sleepless night in quarters so technologically advanced that every comfort system anticipated his needs before he was aware of them himself. The psychological impact was deliberate and devastating. Humanity was demonstrating casual mastery over technologies that Council civilizations still considered theoretical. Dr. Sarah Chen Martinez served as their guide, her genetically enhanced physiology allowing her to move through environments that would have challenged most of the delegates. Our first stop will be the Biological Adaptation Laboratory. I believe you will find our work there particularly relevant to your current situation. The transport system carried them through corridors lined with transparent aluminium panels that offered glimpses of activities beyond anything in the delegates' experience. Commander Thrix's cybernetic systems recorded everything while simultaneously attempting to analyze technologies that exceeded his processing parameters. "The energy efficiency alone," he muttered to himself, "violates 3 fundamental laws of thermodynamics." "Actually, Dr. Chen Martinez said, demonstrating enhanced hearing capabilities, "we discovered those laws were incomplete rather than inviolate. When survival requires violating physical principles, you learn to rewrite physics rather than accept limitations." They arrived at the laboratory through doors that recognized their approach and reconfigured themselves to accommodate the delegation's diverse physiologies. Inside, the space seemed to exist in defiance of normal geometry, with work areas that shifted and flowed based on current research requirements. "Welcome to the future of biological engineering," Dr. Chen Martinez announced. "Here, we solve the fundamental problem that has limited every species in galactic history: genetic inflexibility." Supreme Scale Thane Zerids. Ancient mind struggled to process what he was witnessing. Humans were working alongside beings that appeared to be modified versions of themselves, but the modifications were so extensive that they barely qualified as the same species. Some possessed redundant organ systems that would allow survival in multiple hostile environments simultaneously. Others displayed neural enhancements that permitted real-time interface with quantum computers. "This is not adaptation, Doctor," Lyra observed, her energy form flickering with patterns of profound disturbance. "This is complete biological restructuring." "Exactly, Dr. Free," Chen Martinez confirmed. "When the Council expelled us, we faced a choice: accept the limitations of baseline human biology, or transcend them entirely. We chose transcendence." A researcher approached them, and the delegates realized they were looking at something that challenged their understanding of life itself. The being maintained human consciousness and identity while possessing biological systems that incorporated technologies previously thought impossible. Dr. Kim here represents our current achievements in neural technological integration, Dr. Chen Martinez explained. She can process information at rates that exceed most artificial intelligences while maintaining the creativity and intuition that define human consciousness. Dr. Kim spoke, her voice carrying harmonics that suggested vocal modifications for communication across multiple dimensional frequencies. The integration process required complete reconstruction of neural pathways and the incorporation of quantum processing substrates. The result is consciousness that can operate simultaneously across multiple reality frameworks. The implications struck the delegation like a physical blow. High Chancellor Vexhay's skin had shifted to colors that had no name in his language. "You have created a new species. We have become what we needed to become," Dr. Chen Martinez corrected. "But this is only the beginning of what you need to understand about human capabilities. Their next destination required transport through what Dr. Chen Martinez described as a localized space-time adjustment. The delegates found themselves in a manufacturing complex that existed in defiance of everything they understood about industrial engineering. Commander Alex Petrov was waiting for them, his enhanced physiology even more extensive than Dr. Chen Martinez's modifications. Welcome to Industrial Complex 7. Here, we demonstrate that scarcity is a choice rather than a natural law. The complex stretched beyond the horizon, filled with machinery that operated through principles the delegates could not begin to comprehend. Entire starships were being constructed in minutes rather than years, using materials that seemed to materialize from nowhere and techniques that violated basic understanding of matter manipulation. Impossible, Commander Thrix stated flatly. Mass cannot be created or destroyed. Energy cannot exceed input limitations. These operations require resources that do not exist. Resources exist, Petrov replied. You simply lack the technology to access them. We have learned to tap energy sources that your science has not yet discovered, and to manipulate matter at quantum levels that your engineering cannot achieve. A demonstration began as they watched. Raw materials that appeared to be nothing more than cosmic dust were fed into processing systems that transformed them into complex alloys with properties that should have been impossible. The energy requirements alone should have demanded the output of entire stars, yet the complex operated with casual efficiency that suggested unlimited power access. 0-point energy extraction. Dr. Chen Martinez explained, noting their confusion. The universe contains infinite energy. The challenge is learning to access it without destroying yourself in the process. And you have solved this challenge? Dr. Lyra's energy form was pulsing with patterns that suggested she was approaching the limits of her ability to process new information. We have solved many challenges, Petrov replied. Scarcity, energy limitations, biological constraints, technological barriers. When survival is the only priority, solutions emerge for problems that seemed insurmountable. Their tour continued through facilities that redefined the delegates' understanding of what was possible. They witnessed agricultural systems that could produce enough food to feed billions using resources smaller than a typical council farming moon. They observed weapons testing that demonstrated destructive capabilities beyond anything in their military databases. Most disturbing of all, they saw evidence of research programs aimed at solving challenges the Council had never imagined. What is the ultimate objective? Supreme Scale Thane Zareth asked as they completed the tour. What does humanity intend to do with these capabilities? Dr. Chen Martinez led them to an observation deck that offered a view of space filled with human vessels and installations. We intend to survive. Everything else is secondary to that objective. Survive what? High Chancellor Vexhay demanded. What threats justify this level of gain? Enhancement? Petrov activated a holographic display that showed long-range sensor data from the galaxy's edge. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring systems detected something that your technology cannot perceive. A force that makes every threat the Council has ever faced look like a minor inconvenience. The display revealed data that made the delegates question their sanity. Massive energy signatures were approaching the galaxy from intergalactic space, moving at velocities that suggested technology even more advanced than humanity's current capabilities. An extragalactic invasion force, Dr. Chen Martinez explained. Their technology appears to be several thousand years ahead of current Council capabilities. Their apparent objective is the complete sterilization of all life in this galaxy. The silence that followed was profound. Each delegate was struggling to process information that redefined their understanding of the universe and humanity's place within it. How long, Dr. Mark? Lyra whispered. 18 months before they reach the galactic perimeter, Petrov answered. 24 months before they begin systematic extermination operations. Commander Thrix's mechanical systems were cycling through combat assessments at maximum speed. Council military capabilities are insufficient to mount effective resistance against such an advanced force. Correct, Chen confirmed as she rejoined the group. Which brings us to the real purpose of this meeting. She gestured to a conference area that materialized from the deck's surface. Humanity did not develop these capabilities to dominate the galaxy. We developed them because we detected this threat 2 years ago and realized that no existing civilization possessed the resources to mount effective resistance. The delegates took their seats in silence, each contemplating a reality that had shifted so fundamentally that their previous concerns seemed trivial. The Council expelled us because our expansion seemed threatening, Chen continued. What you perceived as aggression was actually preparation for a war that will determine whether any life survives in this galaxy. High Chancellor Vexhay found his voice first. Why did you not inform the Council of this threat? Would you have believed us? Dr. Chen Martinez asked. Would the Council have accepted the necessity of the measures we have taken? Would your civilizations have voluntarily undergone the modifications necessary for survival? The questions hung in the air like indictments. Each delegate knew the answers, and those answers were not flattering to the Council's decision-making capabilities. So you prepared for war without us, Supreme Scale Thane Zirith observed. We prepared for survival, Petrov corrected. And now we are offering the Council the opportunity to survive as well. Chen activated additional displays showing strategic plans that encompassed the entire galaxy.
Humanity cannot defend the galaxy alone.
We need allies. We need the Council's populations, resources, and knowledge. But we need them integrated into a command structure that can respond to threats at the speed this war will require. Integration! Doctor, Lyra repeated. What does that mean for Council autonomy? Council autonomy is a luxury that will not survive contact with extragalactic invaders, Chen replied bluntly. You can choose to integrate your civilizations into humanity's defense network, or you can maintain your independence until the invaders arrive and eliminate you. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not offering partnership. They were offering survival in exchange for submission to human authority, and they were doing it while demonstrating capabilities that made resistance futile. This is conquest disguised as protection, High Chancellor Vexay accused. This is evolution disguised as diplomacy, Chen countered. The galactic order you knew has ended. The question is whether your species will participate in what comes next or become extinct, maintaining principles that have no relevance to current reality. As the delegation contemplated humanity's ultimatum, each began to understand that they were not negotiating terms of cooperation. They were witnessing the emergence of a new form of galactic civilization, one built around humanity's definition of survival rather than the Council's definition of order. The tour had not been educational. It had been a demonstration of humanity's readiness to assume responsibility for galactic defense with or without Council cooperation. And the terrifying truth was that humanity might be the only force capable of ensuring that any civilization survived what was coming. The final negotiation session took place in a chamber that existed partially outside normal space-time, allowing the human delegates to demonstrate capabilities that transcended even the advanced technology the Council delegation had witnessed during their tour. Ambassador Chen sat across from the assembled representatives, but she was no longer simply human in any recognizable sense. The genetic modifications and technological integrations that had become standard among humanity's leadership made her something entirely new. Before we conclude these discussions, Chen began, I believe it would be beneficial for you to understand exactly what humanity has become during our 5 years of exile. High Chancellor Vexai had spent the previous night reviewing everything his delegation had witnessed, and the conclusions were impossible to accept, yet equally impossible to deny. You have transformed your entire species into something unprecedented in galactic history. We have evolved, Dr. Chen Martinez corrected. Evolution is not optional when extinction is the alternative. Supreme Scale Thane Zareth, drawing upon millennia of diplomatic experience, attempted to establish some foundation for negotiation. What exactly are you proposing as terms for Council integration into your defense network? Commander Petrov activated holographic displays that filled the chamber with detailed organizational charts. Complete integration requires restructuring Council civilizations along human organizational principles. Military forces will be absorbed into the Human Defense Corps. Economic systems will be synchronized with human resource allocation algorithms. Governmental structures will be replaced by regional administrative nodes reporting to central human authority. You are describing the complete subjugation of every Council species, Dr. Lyra observed, her energy form pulsing with patterns of profound distress. We are describing the complete optimization of galactic civilization for survival, Chen replied. The extragalactic threat we have detected requires response capabilities that no existing governmental structure can provide. Traditional democracy is too slow. Traditional military hierarchy is too inflexible. Traditional economic systems are too inefficient. Commander Thrix's cybernetic systems were processing threat assessments at maximum capacity. What evidence do you possess that this reorganization will be more effective than combined Council resistance? The Chamber's display systems activated to show real-time data from humanity's deep space monitoring network. What the delegates saw challenged their understanding of both the approaching threat and humanity's response capabilities. The extragalactic force consists of approximately 40,000 vessels, Dr. Chen Martinez explained. Each vessel appears to be larger than our largest space stations and demonstrates technology that could sterilize entire star systems within hours. The tactical displays showed projections of how such a force would interact with current Council military capabilities. The results were devastating in their clarity. Every major Council civilization would be eliminated within weeks of the invasion's arrival. However, Petrov continued, humanity's current capabilities allow us to project a 67% probability of successful galactic defense, provided we have access to the full industrial and population resources of all Council civilizations. 67%. High Chancellor HFY repeated. Those are not encouraging odds. They are the best odds any force in galactic history has ever possessed when facing this level of technological superiority, Chen replied. And they improve to 80 to 1% if Council species accept biological and technological modification programs. The implications hung in the chamber like a death sentence. Submission to human authority offered a chance of survival. Resistance or independence meant certain extinction. What happens to our cultures, our traditions, our identities? Dr. Lara asked. They survive if you survive, Dr. Chen Martinez answered. They become extinct if you become extinct. The choice is that simple. Supreme Scale Thane Zirith leaned forward, his ancient mind grappling with concepts that challenged everything he had learned about civilization and survival. And if we refuse your terms? Chen's expression became completely serious. Then we wish you well in your resistance efforts, and we prepare to defend the portions of the galaxy that accept our authority. The chamber fell silent as the delegates contemplated the magnitude of the decision before them. They were not choosing between freedom and subjugation. They were choosing between evolution and extinction. We need time to consult with our respective governments, High Chancellor HFY said finally. You have 6 hours, Petrov replied. After that time, we begin final preparations for galactic defense. Those preparations will proceed with or without Council participation. 6 hours? Commander Thrix's mechanical voice carried notes of disbelief. Such a decision requires extended deliberation. 6 hours is the maximum delay our defensive preparations can accommodate, Chen explained. The approaching threat operates on a timeline that does not permit extended deliberation. You must decide, evolution or extinction. As the Council delegates were escorted to private communication chambers to contact their governments, each struggled with the reality that their civilizations, ancient traditions of careful deliberation, had become luxuries they could no longer afford. High Chancellor HFY found himself in communication with the Altarian High Command, explaining a situation that seemed impossible to accept, yet equally impossible to ignore. The human assessment appears accurate. Our military projections confirm that resistance would be futile against the approaching force. The response from his homeworld carried the weight of 3 millennia of Altarian pride. We cannot simply surrender our sovereignty to a species we considered primitive 5 years ago. That species no longer exists, HFY replied. What humanity has become exceeds our current capabilities by margins we cannot calculate. This is not surrender, this is adaptation. Similar conversations were occurring throughout the Council delegation. Each representative was attempting to explain to their governments that the galactic order they had known was ending, and that their only choice was to participate in what came next, or be eliminated by what was approaching. Dr. Lyra's communication with the ethereal collective was perhaps the most profound, as beings of pure energy grappled with concepts of physical survival that had not concerned them for eons. The approaching force possesses weapons that can disrupt energy patterns at quantum levels. Our current form offers no protection against such capabilities. Commander Thrix's exchange with the Meccani Collective focused on technological assessments. Human capabilities now exceed our most optimistic projections for technological advancement. Integration with their systems could accelerate our development by centuries. Supreme Scale Thane Zereth's conversation with the Draconic Alliance drew upon millennia of experience with galactic power shifts. In all our history, we have witnessed the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. Humanity represents something we have never encountered, a species that has achieved dominance through evolutionary adaptation rather than technological accumulation. As the 6-hour deadline approached, the delegates reconvened in the negotiation chamber. Each carried the weight of their civilization's decision, and each understood that they were about to participate in a moment that would define the galaxy's future. The Altarian Republic accepts integration into the Human Defense Network, High Chancellor HFY announced. We surrender governmental autonomy in exchange for survival assistance. The Meccani Collective agrees to technological integration protocols, Commander Thrix stated. Our cybernetic systems will be upgraded to human compatibility standards. The Ethereal Collective accepts energy pattern modification procedures, Dr. Lyra confirmed. We will adapt our existence to function within human organizational frameworks. The Draconic Alliance acknowledges human authority in all matters related to galactic defense. Supreme Scale Thane, Zareth declared. Our military forces are placed at human disposal. Chen nodded as each civilization formally surrendered its independence. Integration protocols will begin immediately. Your populations will be relocated to defensive positions within human-controlled space. Military forces will report to Human Defense Corps commanders for modification and training. Industrial resources will be converted to support defensive preparations. And our governmental leaders? High Chancellor Vexai asked. Will serve as regional administrators under human oversight. Petrov replied. Your experience with your populations will be valuable for maintaining stability during the transition period. As the delegates signed agreements that formally ended thousands of years of galactic civilization and began something entirely new, each understood that they were witnessing the birth of a new form of existence. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through force or deception. They had inherited it through superior adaptation to existential threat. There is one final matter, Chen said as the formal agreements were completed. The modifications required for optimal survival will fundamentally change your species. You will remain yourselves, but you will become more than yourselves. Are you prepared for that transformation? The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the delegates thought they understood about identity and survival. Do we have a choice, Dr. Moore? Lyra asked. Chen smiled, and for the first time during their negotiations, it was genuinely warm. You always have a choice. You can choose to evolve, or you can choose to become extinct. But you cannot choose to remain unchanged when the universe demands change. As the Council delegation prepared to return to their respective civilizations to oversee the greatest transformation in galactic history, each carried the knowledge that they had witnessed the emergence of something unprecedented, a species that had achieved ultimate power not through conquest, but through absolute commitment to survival. The Galactic Council had thought they were expelling a troublesome species 5 years ago. Instead, they had unleashed a force that would reshape the entire galaxy to ensure its survival. And as the first human defense installations began appearing around every major council world, it became clear that humanity's definition of survival was about to become the galaxy's new reality. The extragalactic invaders were coming, but they would not find the galaxy they expected. They would find something that humanity had created, a unified, enhanced, and absolutely determined force that had learned the most important lesson in the universe. Evolution is not optional when extinction is the alternative, and humanity had evolved beyond anything the universe had ever seen.